Our next guest on Central Valley Real Estate is Robert Howk, and you've been here a few times, but today you have a fascinating subject, something that everybody should know about, are these...
People should be aware of it. One of my titles besides lawyer is I'm the senior senator for this area. One of the bills we sponsored at the California Senior Legislature this year was the transfer on death deed. And every house, every piece of property has a deed. There's all kinds of deeds that go with them. And the transfer on death deed was sponsored because a lot of times for a lot of senior citizens, by the time they pass, the only thing that is left is the real property. Then it has to be sold in order to pay the probate fees. So the new law will allow it to pass around probate fees. That's one way of doing it. You can do the same thing with the trust and not have to worry about the probate fees or anything else that go along with associated costs. There is sometimes a cost for trust administration. The problem I see with the transfer on death deeds is the simple fact that I see in our practice every day a lot of fraud. A lot of people move in on mom and dad at the last minute, and I was talking with a couple of the other guests who will be up soon. And I call it the out-of-town kid and the in-town kid. The in-town kid moves in on grandpa and grandma. Sometimes it's a grandson, sometimes it's a niece or a nephew. And the next thing you know, grandpa and grandma have given them everything. They've got access to grandma and grandpa's checkbook.
I've seen this quite a few times when grandpa or grandma's 85 or 90, and they're just not hearing or seeing and aren't altogether as sharp as they were, and some kids in there taking advantage.
That's right. And what I see is under the law, there's a presumption that everybody has capacity. And capacity simply means, do you know what you're doing? Do you know how much property you have? Yeah, they know what the property is. Do they know their kids? Yes, they know their kids. They know the other things needed to happen to the child so that they
convince him they're going to bypass some taxes or something.
Yes,
you're going to give it to us anyway, give it to us now.
Yeah, right. Well, make sure you get on Medi-Cal and make sure the state doesn't get the house. And as soon as the deed is dry on that ink, mom and dad get an eviction notice.
Yeah.
And by that time, there's nothing to do.
Or the kids go and borrow money on the property, and next thing you know, it's being foreclosed or something.
Exactly. And we could have a whole show sometime just on the hazards of reverse mortgages. But they do borrow the money. The kid can't borrow it because generally they don't meet the age requirement. But they convince the parents to take out the money, give them the money, and go away. The amount of this type of fraud that we see in our practice on a regular basis, and my wife, who's my partner, I've been my wife for 35 years, we see it a lot of it. Now, she's practicing more than I am. I'm down to 3 days a week. As I cut back, try to do some more volunteer work in my veterans group and with the senior legislature. But there's not a week goes by that we don't hear of or see this actually in our office. This is how prevalent this is. It is just amazing. And the probate fees are set by law. They're set in the probate code, California State Probate Code. I was explaining to a gentleman earlier, it is 4% of the first $100,000, 3% of the next $100,000, 2% over everything to $1 million. If you want to go above $1 million on a probate, come down and see us. I'd like to see those kind of cases. But on $1 million, well, I've got one case right now. There's a little over $1 million in a probate estate, and state law sets the fees on that at $23,000. Wow. Now, that's not just my fees. The executor, and I don't know why I went to law school, so I just become an executor. The executor of the estate gets the exact same amount. So if you have a house that's worth $200,000, you've got $14,000 walking out the door. And that's off the top because probate fees are not assessed on the net value of the estate. They're assessed on the gross value. Most people don't realize that.
This bill that the senior legislators sponsoring would do away with the probate fees on
Yes,
that?
it would. It will do away with the probate fees. The only concern I have with that is you can get around that with a good trust. And the other thing is that I see so much undue influence and abuse of the elderly financially, taking advantage of the houses but it's not just the kids you've got to worry about. It's unscrupulous annuity salespeople. There's all kinds of people that are preying on the elderly.
Well, let me ask you about a case we get in my office law, because the place where I donate my time is I help people whose houses are in foreclosure, help them find a solution.
Right.
We've had 3 cases maybe in the last year where the actual owner of the house has died. And there's some kids, and they agree, okay, this kid could have the house, or we're all fine with that. But we can't even reach the bank without going through a probate
Exactly.
to negotiate like a modification of the loan or something like that.
That's very true, because the person who died, it was their house, and the reason for probate is to establish through the court process what that person's will or intent was to dispose of the house. If there's a will, then they have to establish that that will is correct, that really was their intent, and then you divide the house. And kind of a rule of thumb on this is right now our probate court is extremely impacted. Judge Kasanjian is sitting in the probate court. Judge Oliver just retired. And they should have another probate judge in this county, and they should have probably double the staff. The workload that they have is immense. And for every probate case you walk in on, you can figure it's going to be 9 months or a year before you get out of there.
Yeah. So would this law help with that property passing from parent to child, or is there still going to have to be a probate?
Yes, it is. It's not going to have to go through probate at all. It'll pass from the parent to the child outside of probate. And it is a transfer on death policy deed, and until...
But you have to execute that deed before. It's not
before, yeah, you
automatic
can't do it
state
afterwards,
law
no.
or something. Okay.
No, and when they come in like that and you've got a probate case, you've got no choice but to go through the probate. Most of the times the property is sold out through the probate process in order to pay all the fees and all
That's
the debts and stuff.
a lot of times the only real asset.
Yeah, it's the only asset.
But you think a trust, this transfer on death, trust might be a better?
It can be a better thing. If the only asset is the house, it does provide that the transfer cannot take place until the owner of the house passes.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll avoid those situations I just explained where they convince mom and dad to sign the thing over to avoid Medi-Cal recovery, and then kick mom and dad to the street. It'll avoid that because they don't get possession of the property until mom and dad die. I don't know how that's going to work with Medi-Cal recovery, because Medi-Cal recovery takes precedent over people with joint tenancy. A lot of people will add their child onto a deed as a joint tenant, thinking, okay, when I pass, it'll automatically go to them. Medi-Cal recovery takes precedent
first, yeah.
over that transfer. The other problem with that kind of a transfer is that suppose that child goes out and gets in an accident, runs over the father of the year in an intersection, multi-million-dollar lawsuit coming back on it, that property is then accessible by the suit for collection.
Because they're on the house, they're part owners, yeah.
So now the plaintiff in that lawsuit now owns part of the house.
So trust would be better. Trust could kind of sort out and anticipate things that you normally might not anticipate.
No, and it's a lot cheaper than probate.
Now, if somebody has questions about this, can they get a hold of you?
Yes, they can get a hold of our office. Call our office at area code 559-229-8109. We're there. We're also on the web at Howk, H-O-W-K, hyphen, not underscore, hyphen, Downing.com. They could get to us there and send through a contact request. 229-8109? Yes, sir.
And you're kind of in the Fresno High area.
Yeah, we're just up the street and over a couple of blocks.
It's Howard is kind of the center of the universe here, and everything revolves around us. So
yeah, we'd like to think that.
Robert Howk is Howk Downing, and the website again?
Is Howk-Downing.com.
Howk-Dining, Downing, Howk-Dining.
Downing.
I can't say it. Like the planetarium out at Fresno State.
Yes, exactly.
Downing. Anyway, our 229-8109, call Robert. He's got a lot of answers to a lot of things. And we'll be back with more on Central Valley Real Estate right after this.